Hey everybody! So today we are going to talk some more about the Arabic lots or Arabic parts or just the lots, the parts, however you want to, whatever terminology you want to use. We are going to be talking specifically about the lot of necessity. I've also seen this stylized as the lot of basis. There are different formulas though for this. And the lot of basis actually happens to be the second formula that I have on the page I'll show you here in a second. But they both of these formulas do have the name the lot of necessity. Now there are, like I said, different formulas for this. One of them comes from Valens, and it's considered one of the 4 principal lots. The other one is considered one of the 7 hermetic lots, and is considered like a Mercury lot. So they do have different formulas. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so one way to calculate it would be the ascendant plus fortune or part of fortune minus Mercury for a day chart. For a night chart, it would be the ascendant plus Mercury minus the part of fortune. And that would be the Mercury lot or one of the 7 hermetic lots. Now, the other lot of necessity, which is also known as the lot of basis, is done by Valens and is one of the 4 principal lots. It is the ascendant plus the part of fortune minus the part of spirit for a day chart. And it's the ascendant plus the part of spirit minus the part of fortune in a night chart. I calculated from my chart, so down below, so you can take a look and see how it's actually done if you want to check it out and kind of follow along and do your own. I have also seen these stylized to where you don't change them for day and night charts. Oh, and just to be clear, since I did it in the other ones, in case anybody didn't see those before they see this one, the way you figure out if you have a day chart or a night chart, you need to look and see where your sun is. Like my sun is in the 12th house. It is above the ascendant, so I have a day chart. If your sun happens to be in houses 7 through 12 or above the ascendant, you have a day chart. If your sun happens to be below the ascendant or in houses 1 through 6, you have a night chart. I wanted to mention that too, just in case you weren't aware of that, because that does matter in how to calculate it. Even though some people don't really seem to give a shit, it does seem like some don't change. I would probably change them, depending on what kind of chart you have. You have a day chart or a night chart. So yeah, that's how you calculate them. That's how you calculate the lot of necessity. Now, I'm not super rigid about a lot of stuff. Some people are. Some people have some very strong opinions on which one of these formulas to use. I don't really have a strong of an opinion on this. I think it's fun to play around with lots of different things, to fuck around with lots of different things. So if I were you and you're interested in the lots, I would look at both and see which one of them happens to maybe, I don't know, conjunct a planet in your chart. Or, and for conjunctions here, I would use an orb of like, I would keep these tight, like 2 to 3 degrees applying and separating. That even feels a little wide, 3 degrees does, but you could maybe move it out that far. But see what actually, like, see if either of these happen to do anything major in your chart. If, let's say, I don't know, the first formula did and the second formula didn't, I might go with the first formula for that person. I might think that one might be more important in that person's life than the second formula, even though they're both the lot of necessity. And they both pretty much mean, they have very similar meanings. I would probably still go with whichever formula happened to do something more major in the person's chart. And who knows, maybe you've got a chart where both of these will do something very major in your chart. Maybe when you calculate the first one, you wind up with the lot of necessity conjunct Venus. Maybe when you do the second one, you end up with the lot of necessity conjunct Mars. You know, in that case, I would work with both. That's just my opinion. I would totally play with both and see what hits what, and which one seems more important. So, what is the lot of necessity? The lot of necessity is actually, it's like a place of, it's like a lot that deals with enemies and competition and adversary. And like the choices that we make when we are faced with these things. And the choices that we make because of our environment in the physical world, because of, and I mentioned the physical world part because one of these formulas, the balance formula, well, actually, no, they both bring it in. Sorry, the balance formula is the one that only brings in the spirit. They both bring in the part of fortune, though. And the part of fortune is there is a tie to the physical body in the physical world. So I think that's where the external, making choices due to the things going on around you or the external things in your life, making choices based on those. I think that's where that comes into play. That's what it feels like to me. That's probably where it comes into play. Now the choice thing, right? The choice thing is kind of a Mercury notion. Mercury is thinking and all of this. And the first formula that I mentioned, one of the Mercury lot, the 7 Hermetic lots, that's a lot of necessity. That one also has Mercury in the equation. And Mercury does deal with choice, with thinking, with perceiving. So it does make sense that, it does make sense to use that one. I've seen some people bitch about this one. But so this formula does make sense to me too. It totally does to use. So where it falls in your chart, by house, by area of life, could show where you might feel like there is more competition, more adversary, just in your environment, you know, like in just kind of there. And then by sign would show how, like, okay, I'll show you my chart, like, and I don't have it pulled, but I have, one of them falls, the Mercury lot, or one of the 7 Hermetic lots, that one falls at 0 degrees Pisces. And then the other one, the Valence formula, falls at 14 degrees Pisces. Both of these will be in the 3rd house of my chart. So that means in terms of like, 3rd house is like communication, among other things. And it's in Pisces, so confusing communication, which does sometimes I do feel like I am, this is true, sometimes I do feel like I am in an environment where communication is confusing for whatever reason. That could be me, that could be the other person that I'm talking to, but that can that can be an area of difficulty. There can feel like there's some adversary there sometimes. And it does sometimes feel like it's out of my control. So that is very true. That does ring very true. And it is confusing to me. Because this is kind of a personal anecdote, I guess. Sometimes I have found that people tend to want to verbally spar with me, and I don't really understand why sometimes. You know, I mean, it's one thing if I'm doing some fuckery that makes them want to do that, but there are a lot of times that I don't really understand it. Because like I've said in several of these videos, like I don't want to argue with any, you know what I mean? Like I'm not really looking to do any of that. So it does kind of confuse me sometimes when this happens. But anyway, that's just an example of how this might go for you, or how you could look at it in your own chart. I mean, obviously yours is going to be different than mine, but kind of Oh, well, just showing you how to do this, kind of, or how to think about it. There are probably other ways that that could go too. This was just the first one off the top of my head. You would want to then look at where the, like I mentioned in the part of spirit and the part of fortune videos, you want to look at where the planetary ruler falls of the lot of necessity. Now, there's also a concept, and I don't really use this concept for the part of spirit or the part of fortune, but for the other ones I will. For the other parts or lots I do. It's a concept called aversion. And essentially what it means is if you have, okay, I'll give you an example. Like, okay, my lot or part of necessity falls in Pisces, right? Okay, so the planetary rulers of Pisces are Jupiter by traditional rulership and Neptune by modern rulership. Okay, so since my lot of necessity is in Pisces, and Jupiter is one sign over in Aries, that would be considered aversion. That's so, and when you've got the planetary ruler or one of the planetary rulers in aversion with the lot of necessity or part of necessity, it can make it to where that part isn't as, it doesn't play as big of a role, or it doesn't impact the person as much. Now, since there are two here, and I did mention that I do feel like it does impact sometimes in my own life. I mean, Neptune is in the first house. It doesn't make an aspect to the lot of necessity or part of necessity. But that's not an aversion. So that might be why I still kind of pick up the lot of necessity. Whereas if there was only one planetary ruler and it was Jupiter, I mean, you might only use Jupiter for Pisces. I use both. I use both traditional and modern rulership. So, but since one of them isn't an aversion and the other one is, that might be, maybe it probably isn't as severe in my life as it could be. But yeah, you definitely want to look at where the planetary rulers fall and the aversion thing. Another form of aversion is when the sign is quincunx. Another sign, like if my lot of necessity in Pisces happened to be, and let's say Jupiter was in Libra, that would also be aversion. Or if Jupiter was in Leo, that would also, because they're so 5 signs apart or a sign next to it. That is considered aversion, and it does tend to make it not quite as felt or known or prominent in the person's life. And this goes for all of I would use this thought process for any of the lots other than the part of spirit or the part of fortune. I don't feel like that applies there, but that's just my opinion. You might disagree. That is just my opinion. I haven't found that to fit quite so much. And with those two specifically. Anyway, I'm going to get going, but you should take a look for yourself and see where it falls in your chart. See where the lot of necessity falls in your chart, and see where the planetary ruler falls, and if it's making, any aspect to it, or if the planetary ruler is an aversion to it, or whatever. Let me know in the comments. Or if you feel like that area of life where the lot of necessity falls, do you feel like there is like competition there, or adversary, or enemies, or what have you? If you feel like that fits, and if you feel like it's handled, or the how part is like the sign that it falls in, I'd be curious. And if you have like a specific one that you like to use, I'd love to hear why. And I mean, really, like, because I'm open-minded, I use both. So, I would just be curious. Anyway, I'm going to get going. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Let's Fuck With Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Paterno Astrology on Instagram. If you want to like or subscribe or whatever the fuck people do with videos on YouTube, you can find us by searching for Let's Fuck With Astrology in the YouTube search bar. And if you're already watching this on YouTube, you can like and subscribe below. And if you do the Reddit thing, come join us on the subreddit. Let's Fuck with Astrology. Okay, y'all. I'll see y'all later.